Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015 at 7 o'clock. We have a board meeting followed by a committee of the whole meeting. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask Jeff to lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sherby, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Calpagno.
Present.
Trustee Celestino.
Present.
Trustee Perry.
Present.
Trustee Rita.
Present.
Trustee Stecker.
Present.
Trustee Yorkovich.
Present.
And President Silvia.
Present. We do have a quorum this evening. Under presentations, we have two for this evening. One is a certificate of completion of police internship to Adrian Simkowiak. Is that close? Pretty close. Okay. Do we have something up front?
Adrian, want to step up? Adrian's completed 200 hours of police internship with the Westchester Police Department. And I'll just read right from the plaque. As a student intern in good academic standing with Northwestern College, intern Shimkowiak was selected to attend the Westchester Police Department 200-hour police internship program. Intern Shimkowiak received experience and training as many aspects of law enforcement career involved firsthand workings of the Westchester Police Department to complete his associate's degree in criminal justice at Northwestern College. Adrian has continually conducted himself in a professional manner and displayed a positive approach and commitment to the police internship program from July 9th, 2015 through 9/20/2015. Upon careful evaluation of attendance, performance, and successfully completion of the College of and Police Department requirements, Chief John Carpino and the Deputy Chief Michael Hagan and the Westchester Police Department certify Adrian Shimkowiak, who completed the graduation criteria, and wish him well in his future endeavors. Congratulations on a job well done.
And then if all the police officers and Gregory, certainly, please mind stepping up. Telling you got it the wrong line.
I've already had that discussion with him.
That's what he's telling me.
Sam, maybe, Sam, take a step forward.
Yeah.
Christina, tall people in the back.
You got everybody? Christina? Congratulations and certainly good luck to you from all the. Good luck to you. Okay, I believe Jeff is next, right?
Jeff is next.
Jeff, come up. James, come up.
Oh,
Okay, so Jeff, bittersweet. I stood in your shoes and left the department, certainly that you loved and that I loved at some point in time. And, it's very difficult to go. There's a lot of memories I'm sure that you have, both positive and negative. Hopefully the positive ones certainly outweigh the negative. But it's been great having you here. We have a plaque for you. Basically says, honoring your retirement, presented to you in appreciation and recognition of your 25 years of professional service and dedication to the village of Westchester and the protection and safety of all its citizens. I guess I could say I knew you when you first got hired and ascended into the captaincy, which is within striking distance of the main man. And I'm sure that Jim and all your peers who are here also appreciated your leadership over the years that you were.
Yeah, I just, well, we'll see. Thanks for putting that in my brain now. Well, Jeff joined us September 1st of 1990, actually about 2.5 months before I actually started. Obviously worked his way up through the ranks. I have to look at the dates. 2006 became a lieutenant and became a captain in 2010. Through the years, he's been a EMS coordinator for us. Got me trained in that as well. And actually, between that knowledge and the knowledge of the Fire Prevention Bureau, that knowledge and expertise is actually going to be greatly missed, along with your firefighting experience, your good practical knowledge of the fire ground, the ICS system, and it'll be a harder transition, knowing that I don't have you in my back pocket for that fire prevention information or checking on that EMS thing once in a while. But I know it's weird to see somebody who started right around my time retiring. It's kind of scary, but I know you'll do well. You always have, and you're definitely going to be missed by myself, and I know everybody. So you were definitely huge in shift spirit and everything like that, and it hurts. It hurts. So, but good luck, and I know you'll do great. I have no doubt. So.
My wife Evelyn, one of the girls Marissa, the other girls at the Newmans I just couldn't get away from. Sam, thank you for the years prior to the appointment and the police department. I didn't write your ticket. Never wrote it. Usually I got it. And we've always had great exchanges about real important stuff. So I appreciate that. Jim? Get together. I lose. Thank you. For this. For us. Jim, Sean? Firefighters, please. You're all part of this. Yeah, 25 years, you know, not even 50 yet, that's on Friday, is that my life? Captain DeBoer, Captain Casey, amazing leaders, Lieutenant Taylor, my lieutenant for the last 2 years, and Pat Sherlock, the other lieutenant assistant, and Joe, and you're all, especially the guys on the ship. It's been a long ride. Great one. Look at this, you get it. Eyes behind. Some of you guys I've worked with for an awful long time. Others, as you've been elected, thank you for supporting us, fire department. You know, we've got a lot of important things we do, and without your assistance and support, this doesn't happen. Greg, man, I got put in front of all these computers and all this other stuff that I didn't bring in the fire department. If it wasn't for Greg, man, we would put it in a train wreck. What do you think, going off of finance stuff? Melissa and I have been working on the department stuff, been here. And Robert, a couple projects with too. We miss all you guys. But thank you very much for everything you do for us. Thank you.
Best of luck, Joe.
Thank you, too.
We're going to recess for a moment. I know there's some paper back there for Jeff. If you want to take that. 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes? Okay.
It's 7:26.
Okay, I'd like to reconvene our meeting for this evening. Our next item will be public comments and questions. To give as many visitors as possible an opportunity to speak in the interest of adjourning by 9. Please limit comments to 3 minutes in length unless further time is granted by the board on active or general matters. Whomever would like to speak, hopefully you filled out a card, so our clerk has your name in that. We don't need your address, but you need to step up to the microphone, introduce yourself to us, and we'll see what information we can impart.
No, it's not on.
I don't understand what's wrong with the microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi,
ma'am.
I'm Dr. Martha Maria Kaczmarek, and I am a board-certified ophthalmologist who is a retina specialist, and I want to help our residents' health. So I am going to be speaking about age-related macular degeneration, and it might go over 3 minutes, so I apologize, but I will go fast. Age-related macular degeneration is the leading cause of blindness in people over 50 years of age. It is estimated that among North Americans, 15 million people have dry age-related macular degeneration and 1.7 million people have wet age-related macular degeneration. In resource-rich countries such as the great United States of America, age is the first and foremost risk factor. 10% of people over the age of 65 years old and 25% of people over 75 years old have age-related macular degeneration. Additional risk factors include female sex, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, cardiovascular disease, positive family history, cigarette smoking, hyperopia, and light iris color. Patients with dry age-related macular degeneration may be asymptomatic, may have gradual loss of central vision, or Amsler grid changes. An Amsler grid is a grid with squares on it with which patients test their vision each eye at a time. Patients check to see if all 4 corners are present, if the central dot is present, and if all of the lines are straight. If patients notice blurry or wavy lines or dark or black spots on the Amsler grid, they should call their eye care professional immediately. An optometrist is an eye care professional who has completed optometry school and specializes in glasses, contact lenses, and basic diagnosis of eye diseases and basic treatment. An ophthalmologist is a medical doctor who has completed medical school in a specialized residency training program in ophthalmology. Ophthalmologists specialize in diseases and surgery of the eye. A retina specialist, such as myself, is an ophthalmologist who has 2 years of subspecialized training in diseases and surgery of the retina and vitreous, in addition to an ophthalmology residency, and is very well prepared to treat macular degeneration, especially the wet form. When patients see a retina specialist or an ophthalmologist for macular degeneration, they undergo specialized tests in addition to a complete dilated eye exam. These tests include optical coherence tomography, which is a scan of the back of the eye, and a fluorescein angiogram, which is a dye test of the back of the eye, such as an angiogram for the heart. Other tests that some retina specialists offer include ICG and autofluorescence. Based on an eye exam and on these tests, retina specialists and experienced ophthalmologists can differentiate dry from wet age-related macular degeneration. For the dry form of macular degeneration, we recommend eye vitamins such as the Arids 2 formulation, which you can get at any drugstore or a Jewel or any pharmacy, which contains lutein, that is very important, zeaxanthin, vitamin C, vitamin E, and zinc. For the wet form of macular degeneration, the only currently effective and available treatments are intravitreal injections, which are shots into the back of the eye, and it sounds worse than what it really is, because an experienced retina specialist or an ophthalmologist can do these very painlessly and very effectively. These injections stop the progression of the disease in 90% of patients and improve vision in over 30% of patients. The three main names of the injections used today are Avastin, Lucentis, and Eylea. Eylea is the newest of these medications, and I believe it is the best currently available. After 3 monthly injections, if the specialist believes it is appropriate, Eylea can be given at 2 monthly intervals until the specialist determines that the injections are no longer needed. And I want to help the residents. I want to help educate our residents of Westchester, and we want all of our residents to be healthy and live long, productive lives.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. As a suggestion, there is a group in town called Aging Care Connections. They're really out of LaGrange, but there is an offshoot that does presentations at the Park District once a month. You may want to hook up with them and see if the information that you've imparted this evening to us would be of interest to some of those folks as well. I mean, we have us here, but I'm sure you want to get this out to the masses to be talking about. You're quite... Aging Care Connections out of LaGrange. They're on like Calendar Court, but that's where they're located at. Okay? You're quite welcome. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Tony Lombardo. I'm a principal at Chicagoland Commercial Real Estate. We manage a property in Westchester located at 10526 West Cermak. The owner of the building has reported numerous times that the alleyway, which is a public roadway behind the building directly in front of the entry to the building, it's pretty deplorable and it hasn't been repaired. I've made a couple attempts to contact the municipality to get it repaired. Uncertain as to what the exact cause of the problem is, I retained a structural engineer, and I have a report that's stamped by an Illinois state licensed engineer that requests that the village conduct some investigation. So I want to know what I can do, where I can go, who I can give the report to, what I can tell the owner of the building.
Well, I think our engineer and public works director, Mr. Lewis, is right there. Certainly give him that report. If you want to stick around for our committee the whole thing meeting, which will follow the board portion of this, I have some suggestions for alleys that I want to propose to the board for our operations for maybe next year and even in the future. So if you want to stick around, you might be able to hear things. You know, replacing alleys and streets, you know, streets usually come first to repair. We have a ton of those to do. We've been doing them as we can financially with the bond money that we have, which is pretty much almost depleted. But I'm going to offer a suggestion to the board for addressing some of these things in not only this alley, but other alleys throughout the village, this whole north side. That's their only ingress and egress is alleys for the most part. Some are improved, some aren't improved. So if you want to stick around for a little bit, we'll be discussing that.
Okay.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
But
Thank
you have the report. Robert's an engineer as well. He can certainly look at that and see what maybe is on the horizon.
Great. Thank you.
It's all about money, you know that. So, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Linda. I called the village last Friday to ask when the street lights on Belmore and Kitchener will be coming back on, and the lights are still off. And the other concern that the neighbors, which my neighbors, it was 3 of them, was supposed to be here with me, you have the public toilet right next to the parking lot. So you have all these people coming and stopping and using the washroom, which I know it belongs in a park for people to go to the bathroom. But the problem is, you had 2 kids in this bathroom on Saturday night about 9:30 at p.m., not a.m., but p.m., going in there playing, and that's not a good thing. So my question is, what can we do about this immediately? Because it's not safe for, like, the residents over there. And I've been there 14 years, and it seemed like the resident is just like, the neighborhood is just going down. It's been
Well,
3 weeks.
I'll do the lights first, and
Okay.
Robert can certainly answer.
Okay.
The lightning took out a number of lights in the village. The silver poles, those are our poles. The wooden ones west of Manheim
Okay.
are ComEd poles. There are, I want to say, computer heads, but more sophisticated light heads than were there before. So figure analog to digital.
Mhm.
And those have been, the lightning hit them and blew them out. And we're in the process of replacing them. In fact, the gentleman who has the company is right to your right.
Okay.
We've embarked on the replacements of those things. West of the Gladstone Park, there was a ComEd line that went down, and Robert has some displays of what happened there. And that actually fried a lot of the underground wiring in addition to blowing out the heads.
Okay,
So that's going to be a long time in repairs, of course. We're dealing with ComEd, insurance companies, and things of that nature. But the lights in your neck of the woods, you said Balmoral and Kitchener
Yes.
that are out, I don't believe are on that feed, and somebody correct me if I'm incorrect, that there could have been part of that blowout, because it was at Gladstone and that Cromwell Worcester area, right at the other side of the park. So depending on what control box controls them, yours might be part of that mess as well. So we're doing everything we can to get those up. There are probably, I think, 50 lights out. We have about 507. We've replaced 150 last year as a result of lightning strikes as well. And we've put surge suppression in the boxes that didn't have them before. And now we're going pole to pole, putting surge arresters and checking the health of every pole, because they are fused, but it seems that the fuses are taking it. But in doing some research about lightning, there's so many million joules, which is a number that if it hits, it could go beyond the capacity of even the resistors, depending on if it's a direct hit or where it's hit. So it's a mess. I mean, there's no two ways about it. But in moving up with technology, we've taken a couple steps backwards, because I think the other lights, the old school lights, probably weathered the storm a little bit better than the new and improved that we have now, based on technology and trying to be more green and energy efficiency and all these things that we hear about that as a village we try to accommodate. So, Mr. Lewis, if you have any other commentary that I missed regarding the lights, I know you've been working on it diligently for the last month and answering a bunch of emails like myself and maybe others in here, that you could shed a little light on it for her.
Yeah, we've embarked on a replacement project, upgrading all the street lights. We've got, to date, I think the number was up to 250 that we've upgraded. Before we put the new LED panels in there, we want to ensure that the cost of the lighting system has some belt and suspenders safety on it. So we're upgrading the entire system prior to replacing the lights. The lights don't come on a shelf and you go buy them. They have to be manufactured and then put together. We have an order in. We have a contract on the board tonight to do that very thing. So we're in the process of purchasing and the process of upgrading. Not one or two or the 50 that are out. Every pole in the village that has an LED light is going to be upgraded, and we'll put in new LED panels where they are burned out. It is unfortunate. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we're confident that with these upgrades and the new LED fixtures, this should fix the problem that we've had reoccurring.
Now the second one, your second question, the porta potty, the park district, the school district, and the village are three separate entities. We don't control the park. There's a park district, but we can certainly give them a call and indicate that there was a complaint. And certainly you could call the park district yourself about the location of the porta potty and that individuals were seen monkeying around in there. That's a police thing, and I'm sure Frank will report back to the chief and the patrol guys out there to check that thing and make sure there's no shenanigans going on. Because trust me, I know what could happen in a porta potty. Trust me, I know. from experience in my other police job. But with that being said, we certainly could contact them, and if there's an issue, we can address that with them. But their location of the porta potty falls under their auspices, but we could certainly, we have a great relationship
Right,
and
you can get
conversation.
right out of your car and step right into it. It's just that close to the parking spaces when you pull in.
On the Kitchener side, right across from the church there, correct? Talking about from the Grace Central Church?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
all right, thank you. Anyone else? Larry, you, lack of words, you did a great job Saturday out there. So. Yeah, it was very well. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I want to acknowledge you as well. Okay, any public hearings?
No.
Consent agenda. I'm told that item B, number I, the minutes for August 25th executive session need to be pulled. And I'm also told that item D, as in David, needs to be pulled for additional conversation. Does anybody else want anything pulled off for additional discussion? If not, is there a motion and approval to approve a record of bills ending 9/16/15 in the amount not to exceed $483,540.15?
So moved. Second.
The,
Got other items.
the board meeting of August 25th, committee of August 25th, the minutes of the exec of September 8th, the village board meeting minutes of the 8th, September 8th as well, and the committee of the whole of September 8th. And item C, an ordinance amending section 1401-080, permits variation special permit bond insurance of Article 2, entitled Permits of Chapter 1401, entitled Administration of Title 14, entitled Building and Construction of the Westchester Municipal Code. And E, a resolution authorizing the execution of a facade improvement grant between the Village of Westchester and 10555 Incorporated for facade improvements. Number F, also a facade improvement for 10439 Cermak for Sparrow Kinnis, the eye clinic there, and also a resolution under G for authorizing another facade grant for Sparrow Kinnis 10447 West Cermak. He has 2 buildings in that. And H, a resolution authorizing the execution of a Smart Ready LED street lighting program participation between the Village of Westchester and Commonwealth Edison, which was presented here at last meeting. Now,
So moved.
Nick, second.
Second.
Frank,
So not sure.
roll call.
Trustee Celestino.
Aye.
Trustee Carey.
Aye.
Trustee Rita.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee York.
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun.
Aye.
President Booth.
Aye, motion carries. On the minutes, we'll have them for the next meeting, is that it? Okay, whenever October, do we have a date?
October 13th. will be the
October
next meeting.
13th, okay. And item D, a motion and a second, an ordinance waiving competitive bidding and ratifying the execution of a contract between the village and GNP Energy for certain inspections, the installation of surge protection and LED streetlights, and the repair of LED streetlight retro kits located within the village of Westchester. Motion by
So moved.
Nick, second. Celeste. Discussion.
The reason I asked that this be removed so that we can have some additional discussion on is since the last meeting, my office made a number of modifications to the contract that was submitted by GNP. As late as yesterday, we worked out all of the items with one outstanding issue, and that's why Mr. Sowers is here this evening. The village's purchasing policy with respect to contracts that would be bid for public works, such as this, has a provision that a performance bond may be required. That requirement can be waived, but of course you'd put those in bid specifications, and people would bid on them and include whatever costs were concerned in acquiring that performance bond in their submittal. Since this wasn't a bid project, I still put the performance bond requirement in the revised agreement. And Mr. Sowers has some comments with regard to that. So without objection, can we hear from him?
Absolutely.
Good evening, folks. Typically, performance bonds are required when a village as yourself would contract with a contractor like myself. The idea that it helps to protect you in the event that after you award a contract to me that I may not begin the work. We actually began the work this past Monday morning, a week ago, without a contract anyways, just because we thought it would be good to try to alleviate whatever pressure you folks are feeling from your constituents in the way of the phone calls coming in regarding lights that are out. So we've been working for a little over a week now without a contract just to get it done. As of today, we are up to 250 of your light poles of the 357 that we're going to be touching, and we expect that to have all of them health checked and surge arrested by week's end. And my hope is that I can walk out of here this evening with a contractual agreement with you folks, and if that's the case, we expect to be able to begin the replacement of the lights that were damaged from the electrical storms back in August this next week. Since there's only 50 of them, I can't imagine that it would take us any longer than the end of next week. So my hope is that you folks will trust me enough to continue what we've already begun without asking us to apply some brake and go work through the steps necessary to obtain this performance bond, which can be very costly and time consuming.
Commentary. Anybody? I mean, the way I look at it, you've done a 250 of the 357 already.
Correct.
Without the bond.
Correct.
So we have 107 left.
Correct.
And then whatever the 50
lights.
replacement heads that
Yep.
we want to make sure that the whole circuit that you're replacing the heads on are great before we turn them on.
Exactly.
So in the event we have a strike, there's not
Exactly.
another blowout.
Exactly.
Anybody have any issues of waiving that?
You, just to clarify, you said he's done how many?
He said he's done 250 out of 357.
Out of 357.
So there's 107 left to do.
Okay.
Health checks.
Health checks.
And the installation of that surge arrestor.
Okay, that's not part of the replacement of the damaged stuff yet.
It's
No.
That's just,
It's like considered phase one. Phase one, tighten up the infrastructure first, then install replace the damaged light engines.
and the guarantee that what we're doing is gonna alleviate or help alleviate that problem that we've had? Are we gonna do all this work and we're gonna have another 50 lights out next year?
Well,
With
within
regard to, if I can just answer that, if you recall the last meeting, when the question arose as to whether we did this health check, would he would GNP consent to include language in the contract that if we have this health check performed, we've satisfied those provisions of the warranty that our system meets their requirements, we have that language in there.
Okay.
So
That's the part I was,
we made multiple changes, probably 30 changes to this agreement. It's gone from 3 pages
Yeah.
to 40 pages.
because I mean, trust went out the window a long time ago. You mentioned the word trust, but I want to make sure we're getting what we pay for this time, and, I think the first time was just real misleading for everybody.
Well, the warranty language was strengthened in terms of putting that language in there, and what we're talking about here is requiring them to commence and do the work, not the warranty section. That's
And
unaffected.
2/3 of the work has already been completed, so.
On that phase one, yes. So
Celestine.
Question, if I remember correctly, there was quite a range in cost for, is that in phase one that we were talking about?
Essentially, there
Where
were
are we at?
3 potential material items that may have to be used as they were progressing through.
Right.
Now, the good news is that I believe only 2 ground rods, which were the most expensive
Okay.
items, have been necessary so far.
Out of the 100?
Out of the 250 that they've touched.
Okay.
And our understanding is that multiple fuse kits needed to be installed because at some point in time they were removed.
Okay.
So no one knows why, but we're putting them in now.
So we're on the low end of the quote.
Yes. Yeah. Now we won't know. Of the two components that comprise the light itself. We don't know which of those two components we're going to need until we get up there. Okay. Now to qualify Mr. Cogano's statement, if you look in front of Robert here, you'll see some examples of what can happen when electricity goes awry. All right, now we can install some of the biggest surge protectors that mankind has ever devised, but they're not going to protect your system or any other system out there should a wire come down that's hotter than the surface of the sun and melts concrete and turns soil into glass.
Most of our lights went out prior to that?
Actually, 20 of the 50 are on this circuit that has the melted soil.
But a lot of them went out before that happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we think at the same time. I don't know. During that period of August 4th and August 8th.
We can go back and forth, and I'm not disputing,
Sure.
waiving the performance bond. I know what performance bonds are and what they do, but you're already 2/3 into it, and that ain't, yeah. I just want to make sure that, going forth, that we're doing everything to satisfy the needs, to keep up a warranty here.
Sure. You are.
And as a matter of fact, I'm writing a little bit in the newsletter about the lights to keep the residents informed, and hopefully everything will be up by the time they get the paper on August or October 5th. But I do a lot of searching online, and I found something from the University of Illinois where there was kind of a Q&A about lightning and direct strikes, and really basically said that they don't care what kind of surge suppression you have on the equipment. If there is a direct hit with a lightning strike, you could have whatever you want, and it's going south. So depending on the strike, depending on the equipment, I would imagine they talked about lightning rods, which I'm sure is the ground rod piece that you're talking about, that without that kind of protection, or with that, you possibly have a portion of a chance, but in a direct lightning strike, it doesn't matter.
Well, one of the goals of installing what is termed a cascading surge protection system is that it reduces the potential damage. Because understand, you have 507 lightning rods out there. Every one of your light poles is a lightning rod. And so one of the reasons that we not only put a primary surge protector in each of the 20 control boxes, but also in the pole, is that if pole C13 takes a direct strike, the goal is that C12 and C15, in other words, the poles that are adjacent to it, aren't damaged. So that's why we do what we do now. Now I know, Robert, you had messaged your counterpart Vitas over in Villa Park, looking for insights. Was he able to respond to you, because they have the exact system which we're currently putting in here now? Not yet? Okay.
Well, just for the board's edification, I prepared an alternative version of the contract, removing the performance bond requirement. I think I somewhat exaggerated. It went down from 19 pages to 16 pages with the removal of that language. But I do have multiple copies here that can be executed dependent on the board's approval. So.
Okay, so we'll use the one that's been requested of the removal of that. Nick and Celeste, your motion still stands for that one as well? So there's no more questions. I would ask Sherby to take the vote, and this is for the ratifying of the execution of the contract with the provision for the performance bond removed.
I don't think it's actually been, it has not, I haven't signed it yet, so we're just approving it tonight.
Right, but I'm saying that's what the motion is
Right.
for, that.
It says ratifying, but I just wanted to clarify that it didn't get signed. The work's already been started, but we still have, nobody signed the contract yet, so.
Okay.
But the motion stands, and you can take a
For the
roll call on
version
that.
that you've had.
Yes, sir.
Trustee Garrett.
Aye.
Trustee Rita.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee York.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, and you have
If-
6 seconds to get them fixed, okay?
If I may, just as another sign of good faith on our part, we're installing what are called line filters on each of your 20 control boxes as well, okay? It just adds another layer of protection to your system, okay? The surge protectors are just that. They protect against large surges. Line filters essentially clean up the signal of what are known as transients, which are minute bumps and electrical pulses that can also disrupt LEDs and other types of digital equipment. So we're absorbing that cost. It's in the area of around $6,000. But the reason we're doing that is because I don't ever want to be here in this position again. Okay? Just so you know.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask that, can you return tomorrow and execute these? We'll have
I
village president
I don't
them
sign
tonight.
those, but if President Sam could sign one now, I'll walk out of here with it, and I'll get it returned to you within a couple of days. Is that doable?
You want to wait till we adjourn this meeting?
Yeah.
And then we'll sign them? We have two more items, I
Okay,
think, on
I'll
the
sit down
agenda.
then. Thanks.
Okay, our item number 8 on the active agenda, ordinance amending Chapter 1409 entitled Illinois Plumbing Code 2014, Title 14, entitled Building and Construction of the Westchester Municipal Code. Motion?
So moved.
Tom, second.
Second.
Nick? Discussion?
We finally got approval from the Department of Public Health, so we're good to go.
Good to go. I think we have a different start date, November, I'm told. Did we?
That was, they pushed the date out for when we would need to approve our ordinance. So now we're going to be compliant as of tonight, so.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? If not, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Shirley, please call the roll.
Trustee Reba?
Aye.
Trustee Stecker?
Aye.
Trustee Yorkman?
Aye.
Trustee Calpagno?
Aye.
Trustee Celestino?
Aye.
Trustee Perry?
Aye.
President Hughes?
Aye, motion carries. Item number 9, manager's report. Janet.
Sure. A couple of things this evening. Just want to report that Mariano's had sponsored a food drive for our Westchester Food Pantry called Stuff the Squad. It ran from September 5th to September 19th. And I don't know if you guys know, but the food pantry is now under the direction and coordination of 2 new people, Amanda Grant and Kathleen Francois. And the campaign was extremely successful. They've reported that they collected, you could go in, when you checked out, you could donate either $5 or $10 for a prepackaged grocery bag full of food. They had people donate 1,200 bags of food for a food value of $6,000. So our food pantry is bursting at the seams. We've got some food tucked away in hallways and things, but everybody should be well fed through the holiday season. So I wanted to thank Jessica. She worked with them and got everything coordinated. I think they had to schedule an extra 4 nights for volunteers to come and pick up food from Mariano's. I know Sam was loading up his car, and they all came here and sorted the food, marked it all so we know when it expires. And Carl Celestino as well did a lot of heavy lifting. But it was a very successful campaign, so we're very grateful to Mariano's for organizing that. Also wanted to thank Celeste, is an employee of Up Technology. They are relocating, and they were generous enough to donate a lot of office furniture to us, office chairs and filing cabinets. I guess there's a fridge and dishwasher coming for Public Works.
And an ice maker.
Oh, and an ice maker. So we kind of look like a used furniture store right now out here in the opening, but we will figure out good uses for that in the coming weeks. So thank you to Up Technology. And some good news, we received word this week from Central Management Services. Our salt bid came back. And if you recall that we had paid last year approximately $122 a ton for salt, which came on the heels of the prior year where we were up over, I want to say, $200 a ton for emergency salt purchases. And our contract came back this year at $60.54 a ton. Wow. So that was welcome news. So let it snow.
It's huge. So,
That's all I have for tonight.
And for those that following it, we have a 20% over underage. So if we need more, we can get up to 20% more. If we don't need
Same
it,
price.
and we don't have a place to have it, we could not take 20%.
And the vendor this year is not Morton Salt, it's Cargill. So that's who our salt will be coming from. And we did ask for a bid for 2,500 tons. So that was good news.
Great. Michael?
I don't have a report this evening, thank you.
Mr. Frank, subbing in for the chief.
Would this be under the committee of the whole?
Just board reports, things that have happened, situations that you need to enlighten the board. I know we get some indications
Really don't have anything
via
to
email.
report?
Nothing? Good. All right. Jimmy?
A couple things. Obviously, Jeff LeBee is retiring as of actually September 30th. This Friday at my station between 1 and 3, we're going to have cake and coffee again for everybody in the area. I sent out an email earlier today to the board and tried to cover everybody in the village, as well as surrounding area fire departments to come have cake and coffee and wish him well in his future endeavors. We're also getting ready for our fire department open house, which this year, as I mentioned previously, we're trying something a little different. On Wednesday night of Fire Prevention Week, October 7th, from 6 to 9, we're going to have our open house, offering fire engine rides, blood pressure screenings, some kids' activities, hot dogs and chips. We're going to actually this year do a turkey fryer demonstration at about 7:30. And then we're going to set up the side-by-side burn demonstration, the sprinkler versus non-sprinklered demo, which in the evening actually will probably be pretty cool looking with it being dark out at that time. Appearances by Sparky the Fire Pup and fire safety tips and much more. And then last week you may have noticed the fire trucks on the east side of my building for the good majority of the week. We actually had the floors refinished at Station 1. They turned out really nice. Trustee Calcagno came by on Saturday morning and looked it over. He seemed really pleased with it. I know I'm super pleased with it. Looks great. Looks like it's going to be really durable. And Station 2 will be scheduled for sometime in October. I'm just waiting for the clearance from the Crest Concrete people to schedule that. So when you see the vehicles out front Station 2 for about 5 days in a row, you'll know why.
Did you at least make it look like a basketball court, like Proviso, where you
No,
could play volleyball
no.
and basketball in there at the same time?
Now, it actually looks really good, although now that green shiny block really looks not so good anymore. So now that'll be the next project to figure out how to properly paint or cover that somehow, so which is going to be a chore. And then last Thursday I attended the IML and attended a couple of classes that or speakers that were informative. One was about the police body cameras, which was kind of interesting because with the fire service we got guys who wear the helmet cameras, so you got to take into account your HIPAA laws and privacy laws as far as that goes. And then the other one I listened to was about the drones and how the FAA is regulating that even on a government level. So starting in June, government and commercial use drones will actually require a UAS, unmanned aircraft system license for anybody flying it for government or commercial use. So kind of some interesting stuff. So,
Great. Thank you. Maureen.
Last week, early in the week, I was afforded the opportunity to go with Village Manager Matthijs down to Springfield for the Illinois Government Financial Officer Association annual conference. We were able to attend many sessions that are applicable to the finance department, but their closing session kind of gave us a brief overview of the state and the financial situation that we're looking at and where they're at with the budget. The news coming out from the representatives there definitely is concerning, and they're still talking about the LGDF reductions, not at the 50% mark that we had originally heard about, but they're still talking about some type of impact that we may see later on in the year. Then later on in the week, I was also able to attend the IML, and one of the sessions that kind of stood out in my mind was the video gaming that I attended, and again, they were talking about the state and the budget and how they have been holding all payments to municipalities for the revenue from the gaming industry. One thing that kind of I found bothersome is that they still continue to issue licenses and are opening up more establishments, but however, we're not seeing, you know, any of the benefits from that here at the municipality level. So I'm hoping that the governor and the officials at the state can work something out soon so we can resume our revenue stream here at the village. And I'll be talking more about our revenue with the state during the COW in my quarterly financials.
Yeah, they're holding my $400 million in lottery
Lottery
winnings too.
winnings.
That's why I have to be here. As you know.
I don't understand how they keep selling the tickets, but they're not paying.
Thank you. Gregory.
Yes, Chief Carpino advised me this morning, one of the unfortunate sides of our exit with NIPUS was that Language Line, the contract that they had, is not afforded to us at this point. I am researching a couple other options, going direct to Language Line, waiting for some callbacks on them. Basically, the thing that we still paid upon usage, but there's a nominal monthly fee that we most likely will go back directly to them, get our own account. I want to say it's under $10. I don't want to give the exact amount, but it's under $10 a month to maintain a contract with Language Line for use in the police department. And
Did we have an
other sites.
individual one, or?
No, we had one through NIPUS, although
were
we had a
through
separate
NIPUS,
account
right.
number.
Okay.
So they paid the monthly fee, we paid the usage
The
fee.
usage, right.
Yeah, but again, it's under $10, so we're probably just going to go back with it, but I am going to look at other services that are out there to see if there's anything else comparable, if there's any reason to switch, which most likely there isn't, but on the other side, I'm just going to give a couple numbers on our debt recovery progress. And as of today, the total revenues that are owed to us that are some are still pending protest, $163,578.97. The total amount that has been transferred to us is $154,132.81. Altogether, we've had 27 protests, and I may have misspoke when I had mentioned the protest numbers before, not in regards to the amount of protests, but initially I did not go through the protest process when I discussed it before, and had found, after going through the protest process, there were a couple inconsistencies in names, things that I couldn't see until I received the actual protest from the protestor. So father-son issues that had come up, but I can say that at this point, over 13, I want to say there was 14 or 15, but over 13 for sure of the 27 were legitimate, which did not have a valid protest to them. The other ones, there's a couple that are still in that 27 queue that I'm working on, but the state was asking for information that I didn't readily have, and I was able to get through contacting our debt recovery service, A&R Concepts. They were able to get us some old red light tickets that we don't have on file. So we were able to prove that. That's one thing that is required during a protest. So, but that's where we stand as of now, and just as a matter of reference, in case you weren't aware, it is 6 months and 3 days since we started it, since our first collection. So that's, again, for half the year, and look forward to the rest of the year, building that number.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, and Janet could probably figure out the percentage, I mean, 154,000 out of 163 is quite substantial.
Yes.
In recovery that we didn't have. I mean, you're looking at employee-wise, almost 2 people. If you know,
Sure.
look at recent hires of what we pay with benefits and stuff, that's 2 staff members that are able to be held here because of the collection process, that monies that were owed to us. So great.
And hopefully, again, with the start of the year, it just, again, March 13th was the first collection from the public on that. So there is a 30-day hold on the monies, the funds. So hopefully we'll be going, through that tax season at the beginning of the year.
Great. Thank you. Great job, all. Robert.
Wanted to inform everyone about the Mayfair project. As you know, we've been in a holding pattern and in a delay. Visited with NICOR again. There's a conflict with their main and our main. We're trying to be in the same location. The revised schedule is that the 12-inch gas main, they'll finish the relocation Friday, October 2nd, and about 30 feet away is a 6-inch gas main, local service main. That should be finished Tuesday, October 6th. Those are their dates. There have been a variety of issues. They had originally told us before the end of September they should be completed, but the availability of parts, the weather, and the site conditions. They had tried to directional drill this, but they hit that rock ledge that's down there about 8 feet and just could not penetrate that with their drilling rig. So they're using a more sophisticated device. They're hot tapping the main so the main can remain in service while they put a tap in it. So if you can imagine coring a hole in a steel pipe that's full of flammable gas, it's kind of tricky. But they brought in these new devices and they're welding them on the 12 and the 6. They are out there every day with as many crews that they could possibly use. So they are progressing. We hope to have our contractor out there again by the second full week of October. Just want to comment a little bit on water use in the village. 11 months ago, we began a program of trying to eliminate unaccounted for water and water that was leaking through our distribution system. As you may know or not know, the distribution system is fairly old. Over 60% of our system was built before World War II, so that age is coming to bear with the amount of leakage we have. Last year I had recommended that we do an annual leak inspection until we got the leak rate down. This year we found 53 leaks that were different than the ones we repaired last year. If we had waited another year before we had done repairs, that estimated loss would have been about $200,000 worth of water leaking down the drain. We caught those early. We still continue to fix the majority of those, and the 53 leaks, we're pretty much have everything buttoned up on the list. Our guys in Public Works are doing these repairs, and they're taking it real seriously and getting it done. The cost of the leak detection is $40,000 as opposed to the $200,000 loss we could have experienced if we let them go year-round. So just wanted to let you know that we've done that. We've also looked for internal unaccounted for water, contractor use, the use of our sweeping equipment, the use of our Vactor. We're counting all of that because if we don't account for it, it counts as a leak. And leaks in your system are counted against you when you fill out your annual report. So we've in the 11 months, we've found over 500,000 gallons of internal use that we can move from the unaccounted for, counts as a leak, into the accounted for water use. So we're doing a better job at counting the water that we are using and making sure that we tighten up our system so we're not losing money in the utility fund and we're selling what we buy. And lastly, I wanted to, a little bit of show and tell. If you haven't already seen these, on, I think it was August 18th, we had high tension 13 kV Commonwealth Edison line come down the corner of Gladstone and Worcester. And when that ground, it stayed in contact with the ground, and what you're seeing is the clay in the ground that was melted into glass. This happens at about 3,000 degrees, and it did blow out about 20 lights. This is a 2-inch conduit with 2 copper wires, and that's how we string our electricity for our light poles, and this was also melted. So when apparently when clay
Robert?
melts at 3,000 degrees, it turns
Be
to.
careful not to drop it.
It is glass. Yeah, I had a really large piece that I dropped, and it's 100 little pieces now. So it is glass. So be careful. Don't cut yourself. But you can see here what that kind of electrical force will do, and it did knock out our whole system. And it's pretty unusual to see this. It had been in contact with the ground, which was wet because of the storm, and it fried on the ground for 30, 40 minutes before the transformer blew out. It also burned holes through our curb. It had reinforcing bar in it. We had to replace the curb because it was totally destroyed. Kind of an interesting piece of...
Hey, Robert, when was the projected end date for the burger, for the Sunnyside, or not Sunny, Carlisle project? Sorry.
Yeah, our completion date was a week prior to Thanksgiving.
So it's going to be into December now, I'm assuming?
Most likely. We'll need to get another date from him. He was unwilling to give us a date till he knew when he could remobilize and occupy the site.
Are they going to be able to pave that late? Or what are we going to do about that?
The side streets are pretty much done, and when we can pave the north-south streets. We may get, the majority of the work is in the parkway, so
Right.
we won't have to pave. I'm pretty confident that even in cooler weather, we can blanket the concrete so we can get in all the driveways and sidewalks, aprons, things like that in. Sunnyside will be the first area completed. We may be able to get that paving. Of course, they like to wait till it's all ready. We'll have to see if we can't get them to do at least partially. And once they get through Sunnyside, maybe pave that and all the side streets, and then come back later on to try to get the other streets, the crossings.
Following up on that, and I'm with Tom and certainly with the rest of the board is thinking this. I know they wanted to start at Sunnyside and work their way west. Now, I hate to lose days. I hate to lose the month that we've just lost. Is there, if you know the topography and if you know that the Mayfair side of Carlisle is supposed to be at 6'2", just throw that out, and that the sunny side is supposed to be 3'6", you would think that, just like the railroad was built, they built from the east and they built from the west and they came together. At some point in time, they made sure that they were together. So I just hate to lose the time, and I would suggest to Greg, the engineer in that, to revisit that, because the weather is beautiful and nothing's happening, and honestly, the people that are living there are going to be overly affected, especially when the weather starts getting crappy, that it took so long, we waited too long, we should have done this, and my angst, I've expressed it about V3 should have had a start date from NICOR before we did anything. And if they didn't have a firm start date, we should have been informed about that, and then the board could have made a decision of, well, guess what? Is Santa going to be, driving a sleigh on a rough road over there, or, is it going to be completed? So I would revisit that, because I think it's an engineering thing of, you're going to put depth, you're going to put slant, you're going to put whatever, and you know what it's going to be at the end of the day, that the Mayfair is going to be X amount of feet under dirt, and then the other one, you'd think that they'd be able to wash their way the other way and then not lose this valuable time. And I don't know if that's a valid question.
Well, certainly it's a valid thought. Here's kind of how it works. You always start downstream and work up, because when you get to the top of the pipe, then you have to make a connection. The problem from starting from the west and going east is not so much grades and understanding the slope. With the laser equipment, we can do that. However, you expose yourself. If the creek rises, now the pipe's full of water and has no place to go. It fills up on the creek side.
Well, my thought is to build the pipe and leave both ends open, and then by that time, the Sunnyside end will be done, which would be the first connection, and then you'd be ready to go to make the west connection. And I think that,
Well, it goes against convention, and there's a risk. I'm sure the builder, I've talked to Greg about that, and he said we can ask, but I doubt if he would do it because it's added risk for him. The standard convention almost always is to go downstream to up, and that's what he bid. So
well, I don't know if it's...
it could open the door for controlling means and methods on our part, which we typically don't control on the job. He could ask for an extra. He may not. Certainly can ask.
I'm trying to avoid a headache, because I could see us Christmas Day, somebody out there with a shovel with frozen ground, and it's just going to make that, exacerbate that. And, quite honestly, it seems like the majority of the things that we've been doing in trying to make these modifications and improvements to the village have not gone as smooth as anyone would like.
But I get what you're saying, but I'm kind of listening to Robert too. Even if you put that pipe in and that pipe starts to fill with water all the time, and it rains after that, you're trying to make that connection downstream. There's constant water flowing through an open pipe, even if it's not connected to Mayfair. You're exposed throughout. I kind of get where you're start at the bottom. You're working out of the water.
Cap it at one end, because it's not going to be connected until it's connected.
Well, you're making connections along the way to anywhere else, or it's just this one solid connection?
No, it's just one solid connection, because all the storms are being connected to the pipe that's already existing. This is the overflow pipe, is what has to be connected, correct?
No, we can't put the north side underneath the new pipe to connect to the old one.
Oh, it's got to go.
So it's got to connect to the new one. So we're picking up flow as it goes.
Yeah, I thought there was all going to the old pipe, and this was just the overflow.
That would make it easier and more possible to do what you say.
Okay, I asked. So.
I get it.
Hey, if you don't ask, you don't know. So. Well, great. Well, hopefully we'll be able to do that, but.
Hopefully it's sunny and 80 and Christmas.
Yeah, and again, it's 55 degrees for asphalt. You don't,
right.
And you're going to get a phone call one day or an email that says the blacktop plants are shutting down. So.
Yeah, and we understand it's problematic. I mean, our crews are already asking, how do you want us to plow that? Because when the snow falls, we can't go over that gravel patch at all, kick out. And
well,
so I certainly understand, and even Public Works is going, what are you going to do out there? So the idea is to press the contractor to see if we can't get 2 paving dates. One, to get the majority of what's already been done buttoned up. And then second would be to come back and finish just the pieces in the cross streets where we're making.
We have been there. Recall where Nick's mom lives on Manchester. You couldn't plow it unless you were throwing asphalt to people's windows. So they just salted the hell out of it and let it melt enough, because it couldn't be plowed to the ground. You might be able to take a few inches off, but you had to raise the blade considerably, because all those parkways had how much asphalt on them. Oh my God. So we ended up just salting it, but again, that's not the answer as well. So, thank you. Melissa, hiding in the corner.
Good evening. Just a couple things to touch on. The EDC, we had our business lunch last Tuesday. There was a decent attendance at the lunch series, so that was nice to see that people came out for it. And I've just, over the last couple weeks, been doing a lot with the disabled parking compliance. The deadline is coming up this week, so I'm starting to get a lot of people calling and trying to find out what they need to do to come into compliance. I've heard from about 50% of the businesses that received the letter from me, so and that's it.
Okay, we'll go around the horn and then we'll come back. Frankie, anything from EDC?
EDC didn't meet this week because we had the luncheon last week, so I have nothing to report.
Great, thank you. Nikki?
Nothing today.
Celestine?
Just real quick, Janet had mentioned that the company I work for donated a bunch of furniture and filing cabinets and chairs. And I just want to thank Public Works. They wanted everything moved before or after hours, so it wasn't intrusive to our workday, because we're still in the building. And I talked him into letting them do it during work hours, because they're all union. And, you know, we're paying for the time. And because it went so smoothly and so quietly, they're looking for stuff to donate to us. So because of that, we're getting a fridge and a dishwasher, possibly some carpet tiles. Those guys were great.
Great.
They had to take up some, you know, a lot of the filing cabinets were built in, so even that was real quiet.
Great, thank you.
You know, I forgot something. Earlier this week, there was a fire at the BP Amico, and I just wanted to say that, you know, our guys did a great job as usual. But also, I wanted to recognize the employees. I saw the video that the Amico had. I went there to assist with the investigation, and although they did what they were supposed to do, it was a very chaotic situation, and there's a lot of situations when you know what you're supposed to do, but then all of a sudden everything goes to hell in a second there. And the employees turned off the fuel quickly. The one employee ran right in the middle of that smoke and attempted to put out the fire with an extinguisher. They turned off all the other fuel pumps and, you know, possibly avoided a disaster and possibly saved lives. So I would ask that maybe potentially we recognize them at some point for, you know, as a citizen award or something like that for their efforts, because it definitely could have been worse. And I would think that Jimmy would concur.
And I would follow up on that with the video that Greg sent us as well. There appeared to be a young lady from Panera. I don't know if she was a worker or somebody who was there that actually went out and took the gentleman by the hand and led him away from the dangerous situation. And I understand that he had a medical condition that may have contributed almost all of this situation. So I would try to reach out to them, to her and him.
Yeah, I don't know.
And if we can locate that.
Did they identify her?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Maybe in the interview.
Okay.
Maybe to hunt that down, and maybe at the next meeting we
I know
could.
Ducey has the employees' information.
We could do a little, a certificate of thanks. I mean, that's pretty much what it ends to.
It's a good idea, Nick.
So, great.
No.
Tomas, anything?
I have nothing.
Angelo?
No, just like Chief Adams said, I stopped by the station on Saturday, and I had the opportunity to meet some of the firefighters and stuff like that, so I'm just kind of getting introduced and, you know, getting a chance to talk to them, so.
Great. Carl?
A couple things. First, the electronic recycling event earlier this month went without a hitch, no problems. The contractor that comes out was out there assisting us, and everything went smooth, and there really was no incidents. Secondly, I was able to attend the IML conference downtown. I want to say thank you to the village for allowing me to go. It was went to many sessions, and it was very interesting and informative. Learned a lot of things that I did not know, and got to go to a lot of sessions. So I enjoyed that. And Janet stole my thunder, but I was helping with the food pantry, and the two ladies that took over. I want to also say thank you to Marianos for what they did, and also the other thing we brought up is not only our village staff, the amount of volunteers that came out, the Boy Scout troops, and just regular citizens that came out to help. When we went Saturday afternoon originally, and there was like, I don't know, like 300 bags, and then 2 days later there was 600 bags. The amount of people that were there and the way they had everything organized, what could have been multiple hours got down to like an hour. We were like a machine. It was a pretty great process. The only problem we had was, where do we put the stuff? And glad that
Got
we
some filing cabinets. Stored in
There's a few.
We need a building. But, I mean, this thing, I think, was a win-win-win-win for everybody. Mariano's, the village, the food pantry, everybody made out with this, and hopefully this can continue in the future, so.
Even purchasing the bags
Huh?
was so smooth. it didn't interrupt the line or anything when you're purchasing the bags.
Oh, no, yeah,
Yeah.
it was, like I said, they were, and I guess there was a contest, I guess Mariano's had with the checkers. Who
Well,
can
they
sell?
had them at their register, yeah.
Huh?
They had them at their register.
Right, but
and
who
asked
can
them.
sell the most bags?
Oh.
And like I said, it was amazing. In fact, like I said, the last day was last Sunday, and you thought it was gonna be, before you blinked, we were done. And it was, like I said, it went fantastic, and like I said, everybody should be commended for that, who helped out. Thank you.
Thank
One
you.
thing.
Good.
Hey, just one thing that I forgot to mention. The village will be hosting another flu shot clinic. It'll be before the next board meeting, so that'll be Monday, October 5th, Tuesday, October 6th, from 10 to 2 p.m. in the community room. We'll be putting out a notification to employees, as well as posting it for the public. We've cooperated with the other intergovernmental agencies, Park District and Library in the past, so they'll be participating as well. So come
Who's,
on out and get
who's
your flu
doing the
shot.
stabbing? Migraines or
But
Jewel?
Osco,
Osco.
Jewel Osco, same as last year's. So they're very gentle.
That's what they all say. Dr. Dargis, here we come. Okay, as far as my report, I just want to add a little bit to Melissa. We've been fielding a number of calls regarding the handicap parking. Just to let you know that we have been in contact with the Attorney General's office, and Melissa more so than me with the Capital Development Board, Mr. Gable, who's part of that. And we've asked them certain questions regarding certain properties that somewhat problematic, that there's not like a Jewel lot where there's 20 spots and you put X amount of spots and be done with it. These are one-off kinds of questions, and we're getting the answers, and we're passing those answers on to some of the businesses that have, or all the businesses that have certainly asked the question of us, or the whys and the wherefores and things of that nature. So, we're following what we're being told, and if there's a question regarding it, that the Attorney General is going to steer us in the right direction, and we're going to follow that edict. So unfortunately, this wasn't done in the last 25 years, and we're trying to play catch-up, which seems to be the history of this administration, that we're trying to play catch-up all the time, and there's a myriad of situations and problems that hopefully would have been rectified earlier, but are not. So unfortunately, they're on our back.
Sam, when we get answers from the AG's office, is there some memorialization of that in a file or whatever for these properties, so that 10 years from now,
Absolutely.
we're not sitting here going, what do we do with this
Well,
problem?
right now, I think Melissa and I, and certainly Janet's been, and I think we've included Frank on a number of the emails where, just to keep in touch, because a couple of them are by his business that certainly have spoken to him in regards
Right.
to this.
Is there a way to preserve those emails with regard to the addresses of the properties that
Yes.
were? I think Melissa's saying yes, so great.
Yeah, I mean, we've been taking, in fact, one of the letters that she sent down to the Attorney General had at least 4 properties on them, an actual visual overhead Google Maps, and what she suggested as a reasonable accommodation, because some of these are one-off, and, somebody that has one spot, theoretically by statute, has to make that a handicap
Correct.
spot, which means there's no other parking for anybody else. Not our rule. But we're trying to work with them. In fact, Melissa came up with a great idea. We were talking about some Cermak Road properties that have maybe 10 spots between 4 or 5 businesses, and not that they have to form some kind of association, but correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, you were able to get the Attorney General and the Capital Development Board to say, guess what, if these 5 businesses band together with their 10 spots, we can put one spot conveniently in the middle of everything, and that they would be in compliant, other than having each one of those businesses put in a handicap
One.
spot and a van position. So, Melissa's been taking a beating from some individuals, but it's not her her beating. It's mine, so to speak. I'm the one that spearheaded this charge, and she's just doing what, you know, the board has asked, and there's been no commentary from the board about doing anything different, and she's been following it in the most professional manner as far as I'm concerned, with sending letters out. I have copies of the 75 letters that went out to various business here. There's no threats, there's no this, there's no that. There's certainly some definitive time that there's, based on her investigation, that's taken well over probably a year to combine with all the other things that we do around here, that these are the ones that need to be addressed. And, you know, one of the questions, and Melissa, you didn't bring it up, but one of the questions that came back was, like, say, across the street, you have Anna's Cafe. Well, he's got some really crazy parking. He's got parking behind the building, which was an added-on piece back in the day. He's got maybe 2 spots back there. He doesn't own the lot on either side of him, but owns I guess a annex lot on the other side of somebody else's property. And it was the old McDonald's property, for those that know. There's gravel in the lot, except for probably the road that ran into and ran around the McDonald's or the other business that was there. I mean, he was able to sweep the stone off of it and stripe it, and I believe he would be in compliance. But had that not been a paved surface, the law requires that at least the handicap spot and the van accessible, so 2 spots, would have to be paved. Our code requires, or there's some discussion out there, that the whole lot be paved, and not just the handicap spots, which is the law. So that's the question to be posed to the board. We have a few of those. Preferred plumbing. He doesn't really get any traffic in there to buy plumbing parts, but by law, he has to have a handicap spot and a van accessible spot. He may or may not, I don't know, I haven't seen it in its entirety. His lot may be all gravel. So are we going to require him to pave the whole lot just for the 2 spots, or are we going to allow him to do the 2 spots just to follow the law? So those are the things that, you know, this board has to make a decision on what we're going to do. I think they're onesies. You know, if 3 spots to be paved would pave all of his lot, then I think the board would say, guess what? You got to pave all 3 spots and not just 2. But when you're looking at hundreds of feet of pavement, I think that's, you know, that's going to be a difficult stretch for any business to, you know, to do that financially.
When a new business opens in town, are they required to have parking? Or can I open up a business and there's no parking? I have no public parking, or, you know,
private
parking for the, you know, for my patrons.
Usually when the building is constructed, we're looking at parking. Most businesses have either parking on site or nearby, like Giordano's or Chicago Chicago, is it Chicago Title? Or
Yeah,
whatever's right next door to it.
They lease that from Jewel, correct?
Yeah,
so it's their parking.
They don't have they don't
but
own
they
any
lease parking,
but
so
they lease,
they
yeah.
need to have parking. This is what I'm getting at is
They have
if
some
you're opening a
available
new
to them.
business, you should have parking. You know, and then you kind of avoid that issue of, well, I don't have any spaces.
Well, and Giordano's, you brought that up, and I posed that to the Attorney General flat out. Hers and Tommy Sullivan's has an issue with the steps and all this other stuff. And I was told by the Attorney General that although Giordano's leases parking from Jewel, that they would be lettered and Jewel would be lettered to put a spot somewhere in that.
And again,
in
that's
that
their
spot.
leased space, so they require
They would
handicap
they
parking
would
there.
require
Yeah.
it from both. They would
Right.
both get the, you gotta do something letter. You know, having a handicap spot in front of the Jewel doors certainly isn't servicing, whatever. I mean, the issue that we have at hand, when, and you talk about the Jewel lot, when you go in front of the cleaners, the Thai restaurant, and the Hispanic
Mexican.
restaurant right there, those spots in front of those buildings are not Jewel's lot. So theoretically, the Hispanic, I forgot the name of it, Allegro Burrito, has 1 spot, that he is going to be required to make that a handicap spot. Now, what Melissa has been able to work through the state is that if the cleaners and Ben Gerong and El Allegro Burrito all get together, they can put one spot on that side, that there would be some reasonable accommodation that they could get to the other thing. The one on the Jewel side across the way, it's not on their property. So that one doesn't count. Same thing with us, where Christopher's is. We have a handicap spot, although not in the correct location, in our lot that's owned. It should be on against the tobacco shop or whatever. So we can fix that simply. But the tobacco shop cannot qualify our spot as his spot.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
He's got the two spots behind the building.
Does the tobacco shop have rights to private parking anywhere?
Behind the building.
Behind the building, that's private parking back there, so we
Right.
would have to make.
And then you have the alley, which is ours.
So what I'm saying is,
And against the guardrail is ours. We've looked at a 1949 map for Mr. Waters today because he was questioning the need, why can't we put the handicap spot against the guardrail to access the back of the building? And we've got definitive answer that you are the business, and if you have a spot, I don't care if you have one, that's what the law says, that's got to be handicapped. Because I told any of them, listen, if we're putting a spot by the tobacco shop, if you guys all want to use that, I don't care. That's fine. We're trying to help you. Same thing like we did on the boulevard. We put one in front of a business that we've known to service people that have a handicap or some type of situation that they would need the parking. It's opened up Pandora's box because that cannot count as theirs, even though I'd love it to. That's why we put it in as an accommodation, just like we do on some residences. We've put handicap spots out in front, not as a private parking, but that is an accommodation that they don't have a driveway, they don't have a way to get in and get out, that we can put it in front of a private residence when that is the shortest distance from A to B. We're not gonna put it in the street if a guy has a driveway where the driveway is closest to the door. That's silly. All you're doing is making a private parking spot for somebody that's more distance away. At the end of the day, guys, we're following the edicts of the law. We're following what we were told. We're following the guides of the federal law and the state law and the interpretation of the Attorney General, who is steering the ship. So we're not trying to make it difficult. Again, I would suggest that any time there's a business change or transaction or anything in regards to a business in the future, that they certainly be made known, and I know Melissa's doing this correctly, that guess what, guys? You got to have this, period, or don't buy the building. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe we'll interfere with real estate transactions, I don't know. But don't forget that this has to be here now and certainly in the future. So, anyway, that's that. So if there's any questions on that, we're happy to answer them and go from there. Exec, do we have anything?
Briefly.
Brief? Okay. After our committee of the whole, we'll have an executive session, if the board so chooses, on 5 LX 122C1, discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. With that, under 14, is there a motion to adjourn our board meeting?
So moved.
Nick, second.
Second.
Tommy, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition, say no. We stand adjourned with our board meeting.